forgetting to do a couple things when I go to start up on this. The people I consider like good friends that I talk to, I don't see them on right now. I'm hoping as my foot gets better, I can either bring my computer down here, which would probably be more likely, or go back upstairs to where I can actually have it on while I'm doing stuff and not. This tablet I got, it's just not that good. And but we got Taylor Javok. It might be a rerun. I don't know because she's wearing the same outfit she was wearing the other day. Mira is looking really, really good. Impulse is on. Like I said, I kind of like watching him because he's a hermit crafter, but I don't really know him. Where some of the other people I try to follow, I try to give them a shout out because they're better streamers than I am, but they're kind of in the small venue. Verticus is looking good, even though she's wearing looks like a t-shirt or a sweatshirt. She's looking good. I don't know where she is if she's dressing like. You think she'd want like a short sleeve shirt or tank top or something like that. She must have pretty good air conditioning. Okay, this one here I'm gonna probably buy in Ha or something like that. All you can see is her head, but she looks really good. She got the little dimples on her cheeks. Fire Dancer is looking really, really good. And Serene Wild is looking really, really good. Can't see as much of her tan lines, but she's still looking good. Jade the Jaguar, all I can see, it looks like photos. But one of them, they both look like glamour shots, like you'd see on a model. One of them, she looks like Jessica Rabbit, and the other one, I don't know, but she's looking really, I mean, it's like a glamour shot. It's not like a streamer shot. It's like a glamour shot. Chicken Wing Candy, I can't really see her, but she's playing Diablo 4, so hey, give it up. And then Lynn, I can't pronounce it. She's looking really good. She's wearing a Slipknot shirt, but I'm not going to hold it against her because she's looking pretty hot. Some girl named Lucy, I'm not really sure. I think she might be a cosplayer that I favored. And then Sagittarian Official, that's all I got. They're all looking good. Give them a shout out. Okay. Now, I gotta be honest with you. There's a name in the thing, and I will probably wait and talk about it. I might do it in this one because here's the thing. When I was uploading some videos over the weekend, I don't really want to do a lot of serious talking on this one because the noise coming off of the game, I've since turned it down, but I noticed some of the videos, depending on what was going on, I could barely hear me because I didn't think the noise was very loud. You got to think when I was streaming before, I was basically running it through my computer, and I had some vocal effects on the mic that kept pretty much any of the noise coming in from blowing up like that. It was, if they got too high, it would kind of nerf them so that you had a better sound. Well, I don't have that on the Xbox, so I have turned them down. But I'll give you the cliff notes, and hopefully you'll stick around, or you can even come back. You can just bail and you can come back when you see me doing Minecraft. But it's this guy. Let me get his name up here. Paul Bennewitz. I'd never heard of him before. And I gotta be honest with you, His is maybe not as bad as some, but I'm gonna keep it real. When you hear this stuff about the Dulce, New Mexico underground bases and shit like that, a lot of that stuff, when I've heard it, I kind of write it off as people that are fucking lunatics, people that got a mental health issue, people that are easily duped and, shit. I gotta be completely honest. I just, there was this thing, and, and again, I don't think he's gonna hear this. I don't even know if the mutual friend we had is gonna hear it, where he could tell him. But I just gotta say, there was a case, and this was it was online. It was a chat thing, and he was going on about, and I'm not gonna pull any punches. I'm gonna tell you, you want to hate me, you can hate me. At least you'll hate me for what I did. But he sounded like a fucking nut job. You just didn't know if it was true, and even if it was true, his dad might have been. I mean, for all you know, his dad might have been a fucking nut job. And he was talking about his daddy, and I'm going to be exaggerating a little bit, but he was talking about his daddy and UFOs and all. His daddy was in the military, and I'm exaggerating this. He wasn't this bad. But, he didn't know. Fuck, your dad could have been lying to you. Your dad could have been fucking with you. Your dad could have, he could have been suffering from some pretty major PTSD. But, and this, I'm completely exaggerating. I'm completely exaggerating on it. Not as much as you might think, but I just want to be honest. This is not exactly what he was saying, but it boiled down to the fact that, his daddy had all these contacts with the UFOs and all that. And so I go, oh, so your dad was stationed on the Battlestar Galactica, which docked at the Death Star on the far side of the moon. Because it was just crazy shit. It was absolutely crazy shit. And I finally, made a comment, like, hey, look, this stuff would be easier to believe if you had any fucking proof, Where's your dad's proof? Because he was acting like we were crazy for not believing him, and it's like, well, hey, that's where he kind of pissed me off. He was acting like we were fucking nuts because we didn't believe him. It's like, well, it'd be one thing if your dad was on here doing it, and I knew him, and, and he seemed credible. But this guy sounded like an escaped mental patient, and his dad probably wasn't too much better. But I gotta say, watching Skinwalker Ranch and some of the stuff that's coming out now, where, like, I was a firm believer in Roswell, New Mexico. I was a firm believer in, I think it's the Rendlesham Forest. I was kind of on the fence with Shag Harbor, but that one there, because of some of the books I read, the authors seemed credible. They didn't seem fucking nutty. They pitched a coherent message, but to me they really didn't prove it. But like with Rendlesham Forest, and I think that was back in the 80s, and then Roswell, New Mexico was in the 50s. I'm sorry, but when the government is telling you this, and like, again, if you got one lone soldier, hey, maybe he's fucked up. Because this other guy, his daddy, I have no idea what his daddy could have been dishonorably discharged. His daddy could have fucking diddled kids. I really don't know anything about his dad. I really don't. But like, when you hear these stories about, the radar crew in D.C., and this was in the 50s, and they kept seeing UFOs in the radar. And my understanding is they kept launching the most advanced fighter craft we had to go intercept what was there. That's telling me that, maybe there's something there. And I heard some people who knew a little bit about the military, and they said, look, the people that were monitoring radar in D.C., they were like the tip of the spear. Because the president's there, Congress is there, the Supreme Court's there. They don't put Gomer Pyle, and they don't put Gomer Pyle and Forrest Gump manning the fucking radar in D.C. You know, like this is a story, and there was a guy. It's kind of the opposite of this, but we were at a martial arts seminar, and I want to be clear, I don't even know that the guy was who he said he was, but we went there, and there was this guy, and he's like a well-known martial artist. He was a student of Bruce Lee's. He ran one of Bruce Lee's schools. Almost every year, there's at least one or two martial art magazines that'll do a piece on him, like the deadliest man this month or whatever, and they'll bring him in and they'll talk about stuff. He's usually well received, even like well into his 80s and shit. He was very well received, and he was doing the seminar, and there was this guy, and I think he kind of worked in with us because we were an odd group, and he was all by himself. Well, he ended up working with a couple. I think he ended up working with the one guy from Spencer the Fencer, and that's a nickname, so it really isn't outing him or whatever. But it was one of the guys from a group nearby us, like where we live, and he had taken up fencing. Because he had read that, you know, Bruce Lee took up fencing and made it part of, and he just wanted to try it out. So he tried fencing, and he was kind of wondering if it would help his stick sparring and stuff. And because the group he was with, they did a lot of stick sparring, and I don't mean that in a bad way. When it first started, it was pretty cool, but as it evolved, they added. They had rules. I would say it was relatively safe or reasonably safe when they first started. But over the years, they just put too many damn rules on it. And because they had skilled people that were getting their ass kicked, because there was a thing where and I'm not even gonna say that we were the ones that originated, but we were doing it. You could go in there, and if you got in on somebody and just started jacking them with the butt of the stick, usually you could disorient them, and they weren't gonna get hurt. The headgear protected them, but you would jar their head so much that they really couldn't do a whole lot. And well, then what they did is they changed the rules to where you couldn't do that anymore. Like, you could only hit them like once with the butt, and then you had to hit them with the stick. So you couldn't just go in there and hit them over and over and over with the butt of the stick until the timer ran out. I mean, you were wailing on them. It didn't hurt anybody, but it was more of a thing. It was starting to turn into like kind of a point system, and for some of us, it's just like, what's the fucking point, you know? And But this guy, he let us know that he was an FBI agent, and this was back. I want to say this was either the really, really late, like the last year or two in the 80s, because I didn't start going to the seminars until like 88 or 89. But it was either late 80s or it was the very early 90s, like the first couple years of the 90s. And but he was letting us know that he was an FBI agent. And we weren't doing gun work, we were doing knife work. And then he kept bringing up his gun training, and we're like, well, we're doing knife work. And he let us know, and so I'm not even sure if he was FBI. He might have been Secret Service. It would have made, I'm not saying it was smart, but it might have been, it made more sense if he was Secret Service than if he was FBI. And And maybe, yeah, that's the thing. I'm not even sure he was who he said he was, but what he was saying would have made more sense if he was Secret Service and not FBI. And it could be a thing where, you know, again, he was in Minneapolis, but I don't know. But he was telling us that the way they're trained, they were taught to put their hand in front of the gun barrel, so that if the person shoots, it'll shoot you in the hand. And we're like, well, why don't you just push it away from your body? Because we're thinking, depending on the gun, the bullet's going to go through your hand and fucking hit you in the body. And we're just like, you know, for like knife training too, you know, you want to move the fucking way. Like with a blade, it's different a little bit, but it's similar. And we're like, well, you should push that away from your body. And then he goes, oh, well, with gun training, you know, we're like, well, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Why, you know, why would you purposely train yourself to get shot? But again, if your bodyguard work, it's Secret Service, something like that, that I could see. Again, I still think it's stupid, and it's one of many, many reasons why I should never be allowed to be a Secret Service agent. But he was telling us this. Well, then when the seminar came up, it was time where the instructor was teaching, he would take questions occasionally, like if somebody had a question. And what would happen is this guy, he goes, hey, I have a question, and I'm not I really wish I was making this up. I really wish, I can't stress enough that I wished I was making this up. And this is a story I'll probably tell often because I think it's funny as shit. But he asked the question of the instructor. He's like, hey, if somebody had a gun out and pointed at you, and you had a ninja star tucked away, do you think it'd be possible for somebody really well trained to get that ninja star out and take the guy out before he could shoot you? And the instructor, he goes, I'm going to answer that really carefully. He goes, and I'm only speaking for myself. He goes, anybody else would have to make this decision for themselves. He goes, if I had my good throwing knife on me, and he goes, I don't carry it, but he goes, if I had my good throwing knife on me, and I was pretty sure he was going to shoot me or a loved one anyways, I might take the chance. But he goes, unless I was pretty sure he was going to shoot me no matter what I did, he goes, I think I would just wait for an opportunity where it isn't pointed at me and he's distracted, you know, where I might have better odds. Because he said, I don't think he goes, if this guy's really determined to shoot you, and he's going to do it anyways, he goes, you're probably going to get shot. He goes, you might get lucky, but he goes, there's always that chance that he's going to pull the trigger. And he goes, I don't know if I'd risk it unless I thought he was definitely going to shoot me. And then what was funny is we were talking on the, you know, after it was over, and we were, it was either the first night, and we were hanging out eating at the hotel, or it was on the way home after that. It was like a 2-day seminar on the weekend. And we were talking about how fucking stupid that guy was, and there's just no way he's like FBI. And the one guy from Illinois goes, you got to think. He goes, we're not in New York. We're not in Chicago. We're not in L.A. He goes, we're in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And he goes, and I'm not saying there isn't stuff that happens here, but he goes, it's not exactly crime central. He goes, the guy is probably not the sharpest tool in the shed in the FBI. And we're like, you know, yeah, he's got a point. And this guy was making the opposite point. You know, you got these guys stationed in Washington, D.C. You know, this is not your loafers. These are not the guys that are just doing this for a couple years, and then they're gonna basically go get the GI Bill and, you know, get drunk and bang college for 4 years while they get a degree somewhere. You know, they're either the sharpest tip of the spear, and then when they're done, they're going to get out anyways. Or these are the ones that are really, really sharp, and they're going to make a career out of the military. And he just, you know, he goes, there's just no way. He goes, The radar, yes, they're right. The radar was not, it's better now than what it was in the 50s. But he said they were trying to say that it was swamp gas or a flock of birds or something like that. He goes, I can tell you for a fact that the top radar people, the top radar people would have been able to notice the difference between swamp gas and a flock of birds and a hard metal object or a fleet of hard metal objects. That they would be slightly different. And he said, and if these guys were really fucking up that bad, if they really thought it was swamp gas, those guys would have probably been shipped out or no longer working radar. They would have probably been moved to Camp Lejeune or something like that. They wouldn't have been in D.C. guarding the Capitol anymore. That was his opinion of it, and it made sense to me. It really did. But there was this guy. Let me get hang on a second. I want to give you the best information. Yeah, Paul Bennewitz, and I'll go into a lot more detail on the when I do the Minecraft, or I'll do it tomorrow if I don't forget. Oh no, tomorrow I'll be doing. Tomorrow I won't be able to do Skinwalker because I'll be watching the episode at night. And but my God, this is a guy who. And I'll go into the more details of it, but he got a degree from like a state college. I don't believe he got a degree in electronics, but he served during World War II, I believe. He was, and like I said, I'll be a little more accurate when you come back or when people are here on the second stream. But he served in World War II, so he's a veteran too. And some of this really kind of annoys me when you regardless of what it is and what it looks like. Well, he got into electronics, I think, in World War II when he was in the military, and he ended up somewhere along the line. He ended up with a company, and the cliff notes of what I got on it. It kind of reminded me of, oh God, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He's the billionaire who owned, Skinwalker Ranch before Branson did, or Brandon Fugel did. And I can't think of his name, but he basically was, like Brandon, he was a billionaire real estate mogul. But for some reason, and he didn't have a history of this, and it's the same thing with this Bennewitz guy.
Feel the wrath of Yitar.
He didn't have a history of government contracts or all this other shit. Well, after he bought Skinwalker Ranch, he opened up an aerospace company, and he got government contracts, which, to me, seems a little like, okay, well that's like a major shift going from being a real estate mogul to somebody making aerospace parts and craft for the military and for NASA. But that's what happened with him. Well, this guy was kind of the same way. One sec, let me kind of thumb through this a little bit. Yeah, he earned a bachelor's degree from Arizona State but had no formal training in electronics. During World War II, Bennewitz was a radio electronics engineer for the Coast Guard. He worked as an engineer for San Francisco CBS station KPIX. So he started getting in KPHO in Tucson. And so San Francisco and Tucson. So there, from World War II on, he started getting an experience in broadcast because he was working with radio equipment, and then I believe he was working with TV equipment. And then in '53, he moved to New Mexico and started working for Galton Industry doing sales. And then later, he began his own industrial sales company. And then in 66, he acquired the rights to a humidity sensor from Sandia National Laboratories. And it was after that he founded Thunder Scientific, and that I forgot that. But the thing I was watching on it, one of the characters that the guy uses for his thing, it's a little talking goldfish. And he said, he goes, Thunder Scientific. That's a pretty badass name for a company. And but Thunder Scientific is when he got somewhere in there. Now, this was the thing I had watched. Let me go ahead and put the... They had said that he started doing... When he did Thunder Scientific, and it wasn't in the Wikipedia page, but on the Y files, they basically said that he started doing government contracts. So again, you know, he was in communications, he got a sales job, and it's kind of like the guy who owns Skinwalker Ranch, where just all of a sudden, out of the blue, he creates a company that starts doing military contracts. So that kind of stuck out. Again, I'd never heard of it. At least I don't remember it. If I'd heard anything of this before, I don't remember it. But that kind of stuck out. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the guy who originally bought it from the Shermans. I cannot remember the guy's name. It'll probably pop into my head in a little bit, but just can't think of his name. And I had trouble remembering Brandon. Like I said, I had to go out and get some donuts, so I've been on my feet a little bit. I got my walking in, and I'm still a little wobbly if I don't have support, but it's at least not any worse. I think it's getting a little better. Maybe not every day, but every week it's definitely getting a little better. And I'm thinking either next week or the week after, I might not need the walker as much or at all, and I can maybe get out one of the crutches we got, like a cane, and use that. And but you know, this guy didn't have any, you know, history with military stuff, you know, and suddenly he owns a company, and then he turns it into a scientific company. And again, no experience with that. But, you know, hey, the guy might have just had the right mentality and personality for it. And he also had something to do with Arrow in the 70s. And that's, don't ask me what it means, because I'm having trouble remembering names, let alone acronyms. But it's a UFO group. It'd be... I don't know if it's what later became MUFON, but I think it's AARO or something like that. But it was a UFO group, and he got involved in that. Well, at a certain point, and this is what really struck me when I was watching it. And like I said, I don't want to get into it too much on this one, because I basically want to get the. I want to get the chest from the angel in here, and then I'll go to Minecraft, because I like I said, I don't think I'm doing as good as I was over the weekend. I'm not doing bad, but I'm feeling it. I went out and got donuts and a couple other things, and I'm a little tired right now, so I don't want to purposely stay. I don't want to plan on staying on here for 2 or 3 hours like I've done recently. I've had some reasonable days. I'm gonna be honest. But I'll get through this as quick as I can, so I got the stream done. But I'll go into more detail on the next one, but this is what kind of got me. Some of the stuff that is happening on the ranch was happening to this guy. The signals, the surveillance, some of the other stuff. And this guy took some actions, and when I heard that, I'm like, Oh my God, you know that. I'm sitting there thinking that, you know, and again, I even told him when I wrote in. I think I wrote in this weekend, and then this morning I told Brandon, I go, look, I think I reached out to the ranch tag on Threads, but I go, I'm really not 100. I've had a few days where I'm not been doing great, especially in the mornings, and but I go, I think I reached out to you guys, and I told them both times if I did it. You know, I always considered this stuff crazy. Like that guy that was always talking about the Dulce, New Mexico underground bases and shit. I always thought those guys were nuts. That one guy that was a buddy of my friend down when I was in Indiana, I thought he was nuts too, talking about his daddy working on the fucking Battlestar. And again, I'm exaggerating a bit, just a bit. He wasn't calling it the Battlestar Galactica, but it was just as fucking crazy. And, you know, there was one guy down in India, again, not a bad guy. I'm not really a bad guy. He had some issues, but not a bad guy. He was really good on subjects, and he was really weird on some, like politics mostly. And like when Trump was first running, he started just talking about just some crazy shit, like misogynistic shit, racist shit, and it was one of his friends. And I don't know if he blocked the guy or unfollowed him on Facebook, but it was one of his good friends. I knew him a little bit. And he made a comment. He goes, "My God," he goes, when that moment when you've known a guy for like 15 or 20 years, and you're just shocked by the fucking ignorant, racist shit coming out of their account. He was, and I might be wrong, but I'm positive he was talking about him. And you know, it was a shock. It was literally a shock. But you know, because it was a bunch of people from down there, and I had commented on some stuff. Well, some guy I don't know, never met him, never had a conversation with him. Well, what he did was he went on Facebook and found a picture of some of the guys I met down there. We had gone to a seminar, and and taken a picture. Well, I was the one who took the picture. I wasn't even in the fucking picture. And I want to be honest. I was overweight. I'm not gonna say I was a fitness model, but I was one of the least overweight people out of that picture. And like I said, I'm the one who took the picture. That's why it was on my Facebook, because I took it with my camera, and so I wasn't in it. But like half of these guys, most of these guys were probably like 100 or 200 pounds overweight. I mean, they carried it well. They could get around and do stuff, but they were clearly overweight. And he made a comment, and I got to be honest with you, I think I was the only fucking liberal in the group. I might be wrong, because most of them guys didn't talk politics, but I would be willing to bet that everyone in that picture was more to the right than me, and I would guarantee that probably half of them were probably Trump supporters, you know, and like some of his friends, like as the campaign went on, I just quit hanging out in the chats because they were just delusional. You know, and there was another friend, he was hanging out in there, you know, and they were talking about stuff. Well, then what I would do is, because this one guy, I considered him a good friend, and I'm just like, I kind of wrote it off, because it's like at a certain point, you know, you can only deal with so much bullshit, you know, and he would sit there and spam shit on my Facebook page when I was getting ready to go to work. And here's the thing, I am not going to just let somebody put some shit on my Facebook page if I see it. And usually you get notifications. But I'm not going to let somebody put shit on my Facebook page that's like delusional, that's fucking nut job land, and leave it there because I don't want somebody I know to think I'm dumb enough to believe that shit. You know, that's my problem. And so, like, he put this stuff up, and it was like fucking idiot whack-a-mole. It was these pre-MAGA people, but he hang on here. No, I don't want that. But he would put this shit up, and you would go and I would go and look it up. I would get, because some of the stuff I couldn't just quote from memory and be accurate. And I would go and spend, like, for every one thing he put up, I'd spend like at least 5 to 25 minutes digging up the facts, posting it for him, thinking I was going to help him out. Well, it was like a game of whack-a-mole. He, as soon as you pointed out he was full of shit on something, then what he'd do is he'd just ignore it, quit talking about it, and he'd post another fucking line of bullshit on there. And I mean, this, and a lot of this stuff, 99.999% of what he was posting, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have even had to look it up. It was that fucked up. I'm sorry. It was an indication that you had some kind of a mental problem, that you even thought this shit was real. There's just no way to get around it. And I think he ended, because I basically just got it to where he couldn't post things on my page. He couldn't see the stuff I posted. He could only see stuff that I made public. And I think he's the one that started reporting my account to Facebook, and I got locked out of my account, and it was going to take 72 hours to prove who I was, because I was deleting his shit. I mean, he basically put on a comment I made that Hillary should just drop out of the... I'm not exaggerating this, but he said Hillary should just drop out of the race and let a man run on the ticket. He was putting stuff up there that she should have died when she got the flu. I mean, it was just fucking horrible shit. And I kind of started jumping through their hoops. Well, then I found out it was going to take like 72 hours. And I go, fine. I go, I will jump through all your fucking hoops. But I go, when you figure out it's me, I go, I fully expect you guys to go through my fucking account and find out if the person who's pulling this shit, saying that my account's been hacked, is the one that I've been deleting bullshit off my account. And I told him, I go, you can go look if you got a record of it. I go, he basically said Hillary should have died when she got sick with the flu. And I go, I deleted it. And I go, and then he basically said Hillary should drop out of the race and let a man get on the ticket. And I deleted it. And I said, because as far as I'm concerned, my page on Facebook, while there are many places on the internet where they can, fucking drop hate and ignorance, I go, my page isn't going to be one of them. Well, when I got off of work, I didn't have to wait the 72 hours. When I got home from work in the morning, my account was open back up. But I said, you better go and find out if that's the one who fucking complained. And if he's using an alt account, see if it tracks back to him. And I go, whoever did this, you need to fucking just shut down their account. I go, if they're going to go make this bullshit up because I wouldn't let them say that Hillary should be dead on my fucking account, you need to go remove their account. I go, don't give them a timeout. Fucking just take their account away. And like I said, when I got home, my account I didn't have to wait 72 hours. I didn't have to wait 3 days. It was open by the time I got home after work that day. And I didn't have any more bullshit like that. And every now and then I see him trying to follow me on social media, and almost always he's got a new account with 2 names. It's like a play on his name. So I think I think his account's been, I don't know for sure, but I think his account's been shut down multiple times. Probably for the same stupid shit. And, but yeah, so I don't really know, but I saw this shit and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like, okay, so this guy was getting the fucking, he was getting the, Jesus fuck. Maybe I won't get the fucking bounty. I don't want to lose this, Dulce. Let's go. And but I saw this and I'm just like, oh my God, you know, this is some bad shit, you know. And I reached out to the ranch. It was a couple posts, but it was on Threads, and they don't on Twitter. And I think they might be, I'm thinking they might be adopting Threads more than Twitter. But the ranch actually has an account started on Threads. And
stop dithering. I like dithering. You win. You win the bet. Let's go.
The storm breaks. I am returning to town.
But I couldn't. I was really shocked. I was a little kind of freaked out because I'm like, my God, the stuff they're talking about this guy, a lot of it's the stuff that's going on the ranch and on that show Beyond Skinwalker. I mean, literally, word for, and like, this thing happened, I want to say back in the 60s or the 70s, because I mean, like I said, he was a World War II vet. Then he started doing stuff after. So like and I'd have to look, I'll try and get the dates off of Wikipedia, but I'm thinking he created that Thunder Scientific in the 60s or the 70s. And it was just like, oh my God, it might even been the 80s. Well, and then, and they kind of mentioned it, and it didn't come to the front part of my brain. It was kind of in the back somewhere. But they talked about how what happened to him, he ended up going into a mental asylum, and he died in there. He went nuts. Whatever happened fucking drove him nuts. They talked about that. Okay, what do we got here? Kill high cultist Murdos. Yeah, we'll do this one first. And so I did. I didn't even watch the whole video. I'm like, okay, well, you know, X, Y, and Z happened. That shit's happening on the ranch. It sounded like he found some ways to deal with it, and I'm like, holy shit. You know, and they kind of described it in broad terms, and I'm thinking, well, if they get somebody that's got a background, because like some of it kind of followed like some of the stuff he did in the war, I guess, and maybe some of the stuff he did when he was working for CBS and that after the war. But it was like, you know, stuff he was exposed to. It was, you know, it wasn't like some of the new scientific stuff that he was doing for the government. This was stuff that he had some experience to. Well, he actually might have come, you know, and again, I hadn't seen the whole video. And I even told him, I go, man, I used to see this shit and I just found it fucking crazy. And but you know, hey, this guy, if what they're saying is true, I don't have enough spirit. He might have figured out some things that, you know, you guys could maybe look into, and it would help you with the signals and some of the other stuff, you know. And
I need spirit.
Oh yeah, to finish that thing, but you know, I got off on that tangent, and I just, like I said, I'm not having a great day. It's not perfect, but that one guy, he found that picture of those guys, and he made fun of them. He's like, oh, you fucking spirit. Liberals and blah blah blah. And I told him, I go, well,
I will free you.
I know one of the guys a little bit.
I must escape.
And I go, the rest of them are all his friends. And I go, I don't know for sure, but I go, I am pretty sure that whether they're Democrats or Republicans, I go, I am probably the most liberal one out of that group. And I go, I'm not in the picture. I go, I'm the one that took that picture. And I go, I think half of them are Trump supporters. And I go, my friend, and I go, I like him, he's a good guy. I go, he's a fucking ghost hunter. I go, he's a ghost hunter as a hobby. And I go, so you can make of that what you will, but I go, they're not liberals. you're making fun of him. And I go, you know, you're not talking about what you know. And I go, I could do the same thing. And I had gone and gotten one of his pictures. And I threw it up in the chat. Like, I go, now, I could take a look at your picture, you know, and the fucking receding hairline, you know, the 8 head. I go, it ain't a 4 head, it's an 8 head. And I go, I could take a look at that clueless, ignorant look on your face, and I could point out that, you know, hey, you might be suffering from early stages of dementia, and that's why you vote Republican. And I go, I don't know that any of that's true, but I go, that's what you just did, right? I go, you found a picture, you posted the picture, and you talked in total ignorance about what it means. I go, you didn't know their political affiliation. You didn't seem to realize that I wasn't even one of the ones in the picture. I go, you didn't realize that the vast majority of those people are conservative. And I go, so how does that make you feel when you pointed out how they look? I go, they're your people. I go, some of them are friends, some of them are acquaintances, but I go, that's your political party. I go, that's the people that are voting with you. And I go, you just basically said they look stupid. So how does that, and he got real quiet. I think he ended up blocking me. I don't think he wanted to fucking play anymore, but
I must escape.
But that's the thing, you know, it's, you really don't know, but I always, you know, I mean, again, that one friend, he's a good guy. Well, I thought he was a really good guy, and then, you know, he's a decent guy with some problems. And when you heard some of the stuff he would say, you know, you realize that, you know, when Hillary called them deplorables, you know, she had a point. You know, like some of the stuff that he said, you know, yeah, this is not stuff that you say if you want to date a decent woman. And I'm guilty of that too. I'll be honest with you. But these are things you generally don't say if you want to associate with decent women, because the shit he was saying, any woman that has self-respect would not have anything to do with you after you said that. You just would. And I'm not sure I had to come in here and get this one.
I don't have enough spirit.
And so there's a lot of this stuff that I just have wrote off over the years. But again, now, when you've got the government coming forward and saying, yes, there are UFOs, or, you know, and again, I'm not saying alien, I'm just saying they're admitting that there are things flying in our airspace. There are things our military is encountering that we cannot explain what it is. That Tim Burkett guy, the representative, I think he's from Tennessee. He this was over the weekend that I heard this, so this would be news. He was being asked about this, and he was talking about, like, they got an upcoming, they're going to do a meeting, and I talked about some of this, but over the weekend he had this line. I hope that the mainstream news is not really picking it up, and I really think that is. I think there's an issue there, and I think, again, it kind of goes to the fact that for the longest time there has been a taboo on this. It's like somebody wanted to kind of give Robert Downing Jr., or not Robert Kennedy Jr. some shit, because he was asked about UFOs and he wouldn't talk about it. He's like, well, why don't you tell me about it? Because he goes, I don't really know that much. And somebody gave him shit, and I go, look, if you want to give him shit, go look at what he said during COVID. Go look at some of the shit he's saying now. I go, this guy, he's been kind of dead to me for at least a decade now, because the stuff he's talking about is just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. And I go, I think his mind is going, and it is what it is. But I go, I don't think you can give him shit for the UFO thing, because I go, the UFO thing has been a third rail for politics for a while now. Like, I go, you can take a look at Dennis Kucinich. I go, this is a guy, when he was running for president, he didn't even bring it up. I want to be completely fair to him. I don't necessarily like the guy, but I kind of want to be fair to him. He didn't even bring it up. It was at the debate, and nobody else got asked about this shit. And you know, some of the stuff that I've heard said now, this might have been because of the industrial military complex. They were worried that if he did manage to get in as president or vice president, like if he did well enough that somebody picked him to be a running mate, or he did well enough that somebody was going to pick him to be a cabinet officer, that he might work from within the government to declassify the UFO stuff. And, you know, and that's my opinion. Nobody else is saying it, but I'm just like, but he was there, and they go, oh yeah, I think it's actress Shirley MacLaine said that you saw a UFO when you were at her house. And he goes, yeah, and he goes, and he was real careful about it. He said, he goes, look, I just want to be I just want to be clear here. I didn't say I saw aliens. He goes, I saw something in the sky. It was flying. And I didn't have any idea what it was, and the people I talked to didn't have any idea what it was. He goes, that's what I mean by UFO. He goes, I'm not saying it was an alien or anything. He goes, I really don't know what it was. And he goes, there could have been a completely natural explanation for it. It could have been something top secret that I got no right to know. He really didn't know. Oh, shit. His presidential run was officially dead on arrival as soon as they did that to him. And so, I mean, then someone responded to it on YouTube because I commented on the video, and they go, oh man, I didn't even know he saw UFOs. And I go, yeah, you know, I go, he had seen one. I go, Reagan said he saw one when he was governor. And I go, Carter, when he was governor, had said he had seen a UFO. And, but this guy, you know, but again, there's a lot of this stuff out there. I've always written it off, but when you have, like, now the government officially saying, you know, in Congress, there's been some former presidents that have now opened up a little bit, and you're finding out that the government has this view that, yes, there's something out there, and we need to worry about it. A lot of these stories, you know, and it was something Lou said, and I think it might have been when he was doing an interview for The Theory of Everything. He made the, oh, hang on, let's, he was asked, and I can't remember what the question was, but he was asked, and he made the comment that, because it was like, he said that, I think the question was something along the lines, if everybody knew what he knew, what changes would happen? And I'm just going to finish this, and then what I'll do is, I got to run to the bathroom, so I'll just end the stream, and then if I get lightheaded getting up and going to the bathroom, then I won't. But I will do my very best to come back and stream Minecraft, and then I will actually do the official talking. And about what he knew, and if everybody knew what he knew, he goes, what do you think? Well, one of the times he was asked that question, he basically said, well, if everybody knew what I knew, he goes, I think there are people out there that are well respected, and they would pretty much have to go in hiding and never be seen in public again because of the lies they've told, the money they have made off of those lies. And he goes, I think there's a lot of people out there who have been shunned and ridiculed that would be seriously owed an apology from people in government, people in the news, because they were ridiculed and treated like nut jobs. And that's all he really said. He didn't go into a lot of detail, but he just said there's people out there that are very well respected that have been lying. They don't know what they're talking about. And there's a lot of people that have been trying to tell the truth, and they've been ridiculed. And the only thing I want to add to this was when I was watching that documentary, they showed clips, and they were kind of hinting that, and I can't remember if it was the Y-Files or if it was something that came on when the Y-Files was done, but I think there's something that came on right after, and it was kind of talking about the same thing. You know, this Bennewitz guy or whatever, the World War II vet. But the thing they said was, there was a disinformation campaign from the government. And what they had done is there was a guy in his UFO group who the military guy would give him copies of documents, and I think they might have been real or they were somewhat real. And what he'd do is he'd like, hey, you know, you can't show them to anybody. You got to keep them secret. Unless I tell you you can, you got to keep them secret. But here's the stuff I can show you. You can at least see it, but you got to do what I want. And he's like, what do you want? Well, for the most part, he just wanted information. He wanted to know how people felt about stuff. He wanted to know what people were doing and whatnot. And it was his way of getting in there from the government. And I believe he was Air Force. And so he could keep track of these UFO groups. And it's they've done this over, like if you watch that one Michael Moore documentary he showed where there was this undercover cop who infiltrated like a book reading club out in Washington State or something like that. And he kind of pointed out, and I really don't know, but if what he was saying was true, these people were maybe in danger of putting on some weight in the community by, you know, baking cookies and getting people to eat them when they came for the book. But they really did not need to have the police spying on them. You know, it didn't make any sense that the police were spying, but he might have been wrong. I don't know anything about the group or whatever. But he was doing that. Well, then again, and I'll go into this more later, he was doing a disinformation campaign on this CEO. And so he was going to this UFO guy, and he gave him some documents and told him to give them to this guy. And the other UFO guy, he looked at him and said he noticed that they were not the original documents that he had seen before. And he goes, I'm not giving them these. They've been doctored. These are not the ones you showed me, you know, a couple months or a year ago. And the guy said, well, you either give them to him and see if you can encourage him to, you know, share them, or you'll never see me again and you won't get any more information from me. So he did it, but he did tell the guy, the way they talked on the video, the guy did tell him, hey, look, please don't share these with anybody. These are just for you. So he did, because he sort of figured out what they were going to do is they were going to get this guy to try and go forward with him and then discredit him, is what his opinion was. Well, then this guy went in front of their UFO community and he let them know that this Richard Doty guy was from the Air Force, because they all knew him, but they didn't know he was government. And he goes, this Richard Doty is with the Air Force, and he's been lying to you. He's been using me. I've been getting stuff from him, so I did what he wanted. Well, he just attacked this guy. Gave him well, it sounded like, and I might have misunderstood this, but it sounded like Richard Doty was the one that got the whole underground bases in Dulce, New Mexico started. And this is what got me. The people in that community started booing this guy. They didn't boo the guy when he was lying to them. They didn't boo the guy when he was a stooge for Richard Doty, helping him with this shit. They booed him when he was telling them the truth. Because they either had some kind of a mental impediment, they weren't very bright, they were unstable, they quit taking their fucking meds. But they would rather have the lie about Dulce, New Mexico than the truth that this guy was now giving them, because of what was going on. They didn't want the truth. They wanted the lie. And that, and that was the thing I was going over. It's like, oh my God, that's the problem with the whole fucking Republican Party for the most part right now. There's so many of them in there that would rather be lied to, and that's why Trump is still looking like someone who's going to win the nomination to be on the ticket. And that one guy, again, I thought he was a good guy. I still think he's an okay guy, but he's not nearly as good of a guy as I originally thought, like with some of the shit he was saying. And I've said some horrible shit too. I got to tell you, I'm not a very good guy either, fair enough. But I've said horrible shit, but generally the thing is, I'm saying it to people where it's true. He's saying it to people that don't believe his bullshit. Now, I'm not saying there's a great difference there, but there's at least a little bit of a difference there. But this was a guy that put up on YouTube a picture, and I swear to God, it was the front of Stargate SG-1. If you watch the TV show, it was I believe it's the NORAD facility in the mountains, or I think it's in the Cheyenne Mountains. And it was a picture of that. They showed it on Stargate SG-1 all the time. It's the front of NORAD. And then it's the tunnel entrance. And he literally posted on Facebook as, this is the entrance to the secret military tunnels that are networking the U.S. and Dulce, New Mexico is one of the areas you can get in. And I go, look, I'm really not trying to piss you or any of your friends off, but I go, that really looks like the stock footage they use in SG-1, the Stargate TV show. And I go, if it is, it's NORAD. I go, it's not Dulce, New Mexico. It's not the start of any underground tunnels. It's fucking NORAD. And there was one of his friends that was usually, fucking just as nuts on this shit. And he goes, yeah, I think he's right. I used to watch that show. That looks real familiar, And then he kind of dropped it. Again, no acknowledgement that he was wrong. No acknowledgement that he was batshit crazy. He just dropped it and moved on to the next fucking mental impediment that he was dealing with. But, yeah, that's some weird shit. But what I'll do is come on back, and I will be talking about that guy. I think you will find it interesting. And then what I'll do is, it's going to take me a few days to get these up on YouTube. But if I don't forget, when I get it up on YouTube, I will look and see, and if the sound levels are better, to where it's not interrupting me speaking so much because it gets so loud in Diablo, then I won't have to worry. But for right now, I'll try and keep the serious stuff more for when I'm on Minecraft. I will be back as quick as I can if I come back at all. Otherwise, I will try to see everybody tomorrow. Peace out and have a good day.